Hey, welcome back to the Nonprofit Leadership Studio, focus on fundraising. And tonight, another great guest. Diane Cervenka is with Catholic Charities. She's the primo fundraiser, and so we're going to be able to talk with Diane a little bit. Diane, thanks for being here tonight.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, well, I want to learn tons about fundraising from you because you have so much to teach. And I especially want to learn a little bit about special events because I think you're like sort of have an expertise there. But let me start with this idea around if you're writing a book on fundraising, what are some of the chapters for you on a fundraising book? I
would divide the book into the areas of development. You have development, you have marketing, you have the database, you have grant writing, you have people who do planned giving. So I'd have chapters on each of those areas, and then just a chapter on common sense.
And what is that all about? What's the common sense all about?
Just some things that, you know, when you send a Christmas appeal out, you probably want it in the mail the week of Thanksgiving, not the week of Christmas.
Or the week after Christmas.
Yeah, just little pearls of wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Now talk about, and we've had a few people talk about this idea, but the database. Because in a sense, that's a very important thing that a lot of people don't talk about.
It's the brains of your organization.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm meeting with donors and just keeping it all in my head, if something should happen to me tomorrow, well, who at the organization knows that this person has said that we're in his will, this person has said they are going to, you know, they would like to donate, but maybe at a capital campaign, or this person wants to give, but to this program within our organization. So all of that, again, to me, it's the brains of our organization. None of us should be keeping it in our own brains, because again, there's no telling when something may happen to you. And that's what you use to create the lists for your mailings, for your appeals, for your newsletters. That's where you keep all the information on all your donors. And, you know, it's only as good as what you put in it. If you put trash in, that's what you're going to get out. But it can be your most valuable tool you have in development.
And if you have a big database, does it mean you're going to have a big donor base?
If you have a good big database. Again, it's as good as the information you have in there. If you have information from donors who haven't given for 10 years and no one's been in contact with them, you know, you can have a lot of names and you can buy names and you can get very specific with those lists you buy. But if you're not working it or utilizing it well with good information, then no, you can have a big database that is worthless, but you can have a small database that's a gold mine.
And how big is your database as an example?
We have about 60 to 70,000 donors.
That seems very big to me.
It's for our size agency, we're about a $37 million agency. I think that's a good size. And we work within portfolios. So our CEO has a portfolio, I have a portfolio of donors I work with, and I'm responsible for those. We have a dashboard that I can pull up at any point in time and see where I am year to date, who did I call on last week, you know, where I stand, because development is a numbers department.
And how many people are in, say, the CEO's portfolio that she's sort of in charge of?
She has about 80 people. So she'll have the board, the advisory, and our largest donors. And a large donor to us is $25,000 or more annually.
And what are the expectations around, say, the CEO and those 80 donors? Is she supposed to touch them on what average basis?
Well, she'll send them mailings, she'll call them, she'll meet with them, you know, keeping them up to date on our organization. When we have some big event that happened last week, Cynthia was at the UN speaking about women refugees. So
she was?
Yes.
I'm going to have to talk to her about that. That sounds fun.
So, you know, just keeping them apprised. But we try to touch them at least every other month.
And how much money do you have to raise every year about you and your team?
Well, we have a, like $37 million budget, and my team will touch most of that. So
Wow.
my team's responsible for about 25 of that.
$25 million every year. And is a significant portion of that sort of federal money that comes in?
Government grants.
So,
And
so how much of that 25 million is government grants?
68%.
Okay. So a big part of it. But still, we're still talking now maybe 10 million that you have to raise every year.
About 8.
8 million. Your math is better than mine. So, because you have it in front of
No.
you. So you have 8 million. And how big is your staff?
There's 10 of us in my department.
Wow. So that's a lot of work for 10 people.
It is. Within my staff, the largest fundraiser are my 2 grant writers. And then our individual donations, and then special events.
Wow. And let me talk about you a little bit, Diane. I mean, where did you grow up, first of all?
Born and raised here in Houston.
Right in Houston. Where'd you go to high school?
Sharpstown,
Sharpstown High School. And then did you go to college here in Houston?
University of Texas.
Okay.
That was the only time I lived away from Houston.
And then what made you get into fundraising?
I'd worked in the for-profit world, but I always, in nights and weekends, worked in nonprofit. Worked with Victory, with Cattle Barons Ball, Heart Ball, Zoo Ball. Yes, obviously events are my strength. And the company I work for doesn't exist anymore. One of the bigger pharmaceutical companies bought it.
Wow.
And so it was time to reevaluate. And what I spent my time doing, my free time doing, was fundraising and doing events. So I decided to, make a career change and get into the nonprofit world because it's what I really enjoy. And it was a transition because I kept thinking, oh my goodness, I need to get back to work. And it's like, I am at work.
Yeah.
So, but you learn to be very efficient and effective when you're doing it on your own time. So
Yeah.
I think
Do you
that
love
works
your
very well.
job?
I do.
Wow. And what is the hardest part of the work that you do?
There's just never enough money.
Yeah.
Seeing the clients, and you want to do more, but again, there's only so much money.
And when you and your closest friends that work in fundraising or your staff, you sit around and you look around at the landscape of fundraising in Texas or in Houston, and you think, oh, now they have a good fundraising operation. Who are some of the people that you think about?
Well, of course, I think we do.
Yeah.
And I think you do. I think Children at Risk does a great job. But I always look at people who are bigger than me.
Yeah.
So I look at MD Anderson. Of course, they have 400 staff.
Yeah.
Well, they should be bigger than me. So I look at the big boys, Texas Children's Hospital. A lot of we have so much medical here. Memorial Hermann and the Houston Zoo. Look at like their marketing and what they're doing. I'd still like to replicate Memorial Hermann's gala model.
The circle
but
of
I'm
life.
not. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know how to do what she does, but I'm working on it.
And when you look at these places, are they doing something different than you're doing, or they just have more staff?
I think. Some of it is more staff. Sometimes I think they do things a little bit differently. I know the vendors with Memorial Hermann really support the event, and we try. We're just not there. I don't know of anyone who's there like they are.
Yeah.
They're able to do it successfully. But I look at what other people do, and we aren't as big as them, but how will it work for an agency our size?
And do you think if you had more staff, does it go, because this is a simple question, right? If I'm the CEO of Catholic Charities and I give you more staff, do we exponentially raise more money? Is it that simple?
I don't think so. I think at some point you saturate your market, and unlike hospitals will have grateful patients, schools will have alumni. Our clients, we just want them to be out of poverty.
Yeah.
Are they ever going to be our big donors? Probably not. If that's where we're looking,
Now you're looking in the wrong place.
Yeah, it's not going to be successful.
Yeah.
So that is a little bit of a challenge with our organization, but I think you can get to a saturation point where adding more people it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to bring in more money.
Yeah.
They should, because I know in my department, you should be bringing in 3 times your salary.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not, then maybe we need to talk.
Is that sort of the rule of thumb that you and many other fundraisers use, the idea that if you bring a staff member in, they bring 3 times their salary? Yeah. So if I'm paying someone $200,000, I better get $600,000 out of them at least. Actually, if I'm paying someone that much, I better
I
get
know.
way
I was
more
going
than
to say, if you're paying $200,000, do you have an opening?
I'm not paying $200,000. But someone out there probably is, though, right?
You go work for the Y.
It is interesting. I hadn't thought about this, but about asking about this, but fundraising is one of those areas that we will sometimes, and you'll see this as well, right, where the senior fundraiser makes more than the CEO. It's like they're the highest paid person at an organization. I never liked that idea, but you see it.
Yeah, we are not. I mean, you can look at our 990 and see
who makes
where
what.
everyone is listed. Everyone
But there's some big salaries out there, aren't there, for...
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big misconception with nonprofits, and especially since I came from the pharmaceutical industry, everyone was like, oh, you're just in poverty now. No, I'm not.
Right.
You can make money. I mean, will I ever be a rich kinder? No.
Right.
But I can live a nice lifestyle, and you can have a good life working in the nonprofit world.
Yeah. I want to take a step back because I diverted on the salary thing, but in regards to how you guys raise money, the first questions that I'm sure people think are, well, do Catholic churches give you money? And because, well, certainly the Catholic Church is so rich, they must give you tons of money. And then the other question is, your individual givers, are they mostly sort of wealthy Catholics that decide to give to Catholic Charities?
First of all, we don't have a direct line to the Pope, which some people think we do.
And the Pope has the direct line to God, so you would think
and they're
all
like,
this wealth.
Can't you just get money from the Vatican? It's
Yeah.
like, well, it's not that easy. We do get money from the church. There's a diocesan service fund that the Archdiocese does, and we get a percentage of that. And then the Archdiocese does support us. But only like 3% of our budget is from the Archdiocese.
People think it's going to be like 80%, but 3%.
Yeah, and a lot of people will give money to the DSF and say, well, I gave to Catholic Charities. Well,
DSF?
Diocesan Service Fund.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's a very small part of the money that's being brought in. So we really have to go and fundraise. And who our donors are, a lot of them are wealthy Catholics in the area, but that's very misleading about our name. We have Catholic in our name, but we're just people helping people.
Right.
If you need help, we don't even know if you are Christian, what you are. That's not what we ask.
You're there to help people.
You need help, we can help you, we're here.
Yeah, and being familiar with the organization, you go to different departments, there really is no pledge to Catholicism going on. It's like...
No, we don't baptize at the door. We are the social service arm of the church, and we have federal funding, and you have to separate church and state. So, like we have foster children, and so we do some things the church can't do. So that's what we take care of.
Let's talk about events. What percentage of your income that you get, the money that you raise, comes from events?
That is actually just 2%.
So it's small.
Our gala raises, we're hoping this year like 1.2 million, and then we have a luncheon, a family luncheon at Christmas, and that'll raise about 250,000.
Wow. And of all the types of events that you see around and all the organizations that are doing events, are there some that you think, now that's an event that I'd like to be a part of?
Cattle Barons Ball.
Yeah, why is that such a great event?
It's a little different. It's a little more casual. Again, it's just different. It's not going and sitting in a ballroom somewhere. There's a lot of things going
It's
on.
fun. It is
So
fun.
yeah, there's it's just again a lot going on. I used to love the zoo ball because it's at the zoo. Now, granted, I loved it when it was good weather. When it was pouring down rain and I was out there doing sound checks, didn't
No one
like it
likes
that
that.
much. But you know, just things that are different.
How about things like the MS 150? They seem to do quite well.
Yeah. I would love to do something like that. I never have, like a race or a
Yeah.
bike tour.
So if I'm a small nonprofit and I'm deciding, I think I want to do an event, what's your advice? Do you say yes, do an event, or do you say don't do an event?
I would say start small though, maybe with a lunch, because a lot of them will go, okay, well, I want to have a gala. Well, it's more expensive to do a gala than a lunch. Start with something small and build up to the big.
And the lunch, is that the easiest small thing?
I think so. I mean, you can do golf tournaments, but I haven't found that the return on your investment is that good. I think there's a lot of time and energy, and for the amount of money you raise, I've been involved with them, and again, we've ended up cutting them out because we just found the return on investment wasn't there.
We had Ann Murphy here on the table, and we asked her about events. I think she was the first person in the class this year, and she said, many people do too many events. She said, Bob, you do too many events. And can you do too many events? I mean, it seems like you hear a lot from fundraising people. Now, we continue to raise money, and it's hard to give away things to say, well, we're going to stop doing things that raise money. But is that sort of a common advice around events? Don't do events, or don't do many events, or don't do events because you could take that time and be better spent putting it into raising money from foundations?
I think if you balance it, I think events are important and they're a way to bring in new donors. But then what are you going to do once you bring these new donors in? Do you have the time and the people to then develop these new donors? That's where a lot of times new donors come in and then they come to the event and you never contact them again. I mean, it's a great way to meet new people. And if they're at your event, certainly there's something, you know, the person who bought the table, who invited them, that they may have in common with your agency. But events take a lot of time and energy. So, you know, with the staff, you know, I think it's a balance because, again, do you want to just raise money and bring in new people but not, you know, work with them and develop them?
And is there sort of a number that you go in terms of raising money for events? Is there a percentage you should be spending or not spending in terms of getting that event done?
We try to stay with 20%.
So if you're raising $100,000, you should not have spent more than $20,000 in a sense.
That's our goal.
There. Yeah.
It's 20 to
It's hard
25,
sometimes,
but
right?
I mean, we really try to stay with that 20%, and we really work to get a lot of things donated so we don't have to pay for them.
So if I'm going to do a big concert at the Toyota Center and Bruno Mars is going to come in, that sounds like a really good event. But after all the expenses, I may raise $2 million, but it cost me $1 million to do. Is it worth it then that it was 50% and it was $1 million, but I still made $1 million?
I would think for $1 million, I've never done a concert like that. I've had entertainers at events.
I really like the idea of bringing Bruno Mars in, I think, at the Toyota Center.
You know, if you could raise $1 million, I would think it would be worth it. I would do it.
So should we do a joint Children at Risk Catholic Charities concert for children and bring Bruno Mars in?
I like that.
Okay. Don't be surprised if I call you on that. So, good. Well, let's go to the Twitterverse and see what people are tweeting in. Let's see here. So Sheena Childs wants to know, what community programs does Catholic Charities support and what criteria must the organization meet? Well, are you helping people more than organizations?
We help people.
Yeah. And so what are the key programs that when I say I'm going to have Catholic Charities sort of work on this, what are the key things that Catholic Charities works on?
We have about 15 different programs, and because we're so diverse, we put them into 4 areas of influence. We have children, we have families, we have seniors and other vulnerable adults, and we have immigrants and refugees. So we have foster children, we have seniors, basic needs, helping refugees get settled here in Houston, immigrants, helping them to become citizens, to get their green cards, and we have a female veterans program. We have an AIDS ministry.
Your biggest program is?
Cabrini, our legal department.
Legal department, with all the immigration that's going on there. And you guys do wonderful work there. This brings up Rhonda Omeron tweeted in. Is it a challenge to raise funds for Muslims that are refugees in Texas because of politics nowadays? And I just think what you guys do at Cabrini is sort of an interesting thing. Talk about that in regards to this question.
We do what we do. We don't necessarily advertise it. There is a lot of controversy. But we
you
are
bring in lots of Syrians, and you bring in.
We haven't had a lot of Syrians. I think we maybe have 4 families here right now. But people don't understand the vetting process.
Right.
I mean, they could have been in a camp for 2 years. They're going through Homeland Security, Office of Refugee Resettlement, the FBI. They are having so many background checks. It's not easy to come here as a refugee.
So by the time they get to you, it's almost a no-brainer for these families.
Yeah, I mean, if they, granted, I'm sure it could happen, but they are vetted pretty hard and for a long time before they're allowed to come to the U.S.
Mm-hmm. And the head of Cabrini Green is a Muslim woman, right? She's fantastic.
Wafa.
Cabrini Green, not Cabrini Green. Cabrini. Martha Garcia wants to know, how does your department stay up to date with millennials? Do you do anything specific to reach out to them?
Well, I have a bunch of millennials working for me. And
how is that?
You have to accept that they're going to be on their cell phones often. But I have to admit, donors text me, call me on my cell phone. So you have to work with the changes. They're in charge of our social media, so they can tweet and do Instagram and keep up with the Facebook daily. So
and a good millennial is pretty hard to beat.
Yeah.
I mean, we have some terrific staff, millennial staff. So.
Yeah, and I mean, you do things a little bit differently, but I have the millennials working to get the millennials to volunteer to donate with us.
And is that where are millennials donating at this point?
Small amounts.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not the
right.
But we have some. There are some organizations that they're the 2nd or 3rd generation, and so they're coming in and looking, and a lot of the things that they're interested in are the immigrants and the refugees.
Yeah.
So it's in, you look at the different age populations and they just have different interests.
Yeah. Carla Jones Adams wants to know the percentages of giving at Catholic Charities. So you said 68% is government giving, 2% is events. How do you break down some of the others?
Donations are 8%, grants are 15%, and in-kind is 6%.
And when you look at which one you think should grow, is it usually individual donations, individual giving? Is that the area that I know that's where most people go, right?
Yeah, and individual giving should be 72% of your giving. When you're looking at, a lot of people think it's corporate or foundations. It's like, no, it's actually individual giving should be 70-something% within that group.
Because that's the average nationally, right? It's around that. Now, how do you go, what do you say, 8% is what, 16% that you guys are at right now, individual giving?
Oh, we're at 8%.
8%. So how do you get from 8% to 72%? That's a big jump.
Well,
Can
no,
you get there?
I don't think so. I think as long as we continue to do the programs that we get federal funding for, I don't think we'll be able to touch that part.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so significant, the government grants that we get, almost $21 million.
Yeah, it'd be hard.
It doesn't matter how much staff I have. I don't think I could do that.
And when you look at your individual giving, without saying who it is, I mean, what was, say, last year or this year, your largest individual gift? Did someone give you $1 million last year?
No.
No.
200,000.
200,000, and that was nice. That would be nice if we got that too. So, Valerie Garade wants to know, what kind of marketing strategies do you use to attract more donors?
When we go to conferences or fairs, I don't want to just give something out, here's a mug. No, here's a mug if you like us on Facebook. If you go maybe to another place where maybe the people are a little bit older, I'll buy a $50 gift card to Kroger. And if you give us your email address, you can sign up for this gift card. So you're getting something in return to build up the database, to build up, your likes on Facebook. There was a Chronicle promotion. You had to be one of the top 20 nonprofits who you voted every day for like 3 weeks, and we won that last year. So we got 8 free ads in the Houston Chronicle. We love things like that.
Yeah.
But we do, again, the social media, our website, and then just going out and marketing with people. We don't have the kind of budget to do billboards and, behind taxis and TV or radio commercials. I'm working on it, but, with a nonprofit budget, usually.
You're happy if they donate that.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do, but not always. That's the thing. A lot of people think things that are donated, oftentimes they're really not donated. You get a discount.
Yeah.
Martha Garcia, by the way, said, Cabrini helped me many years ago. Thank you. Isn't that nice? Look at that.
That's wonderful.
So Michelle Cordier wants to know, what's your biggest piece of advice for an organization that's just starting a development staff?
It's just, you have to spend a lot of time and get out there and
a good board. Would a good board be a good start?
Yeah.
People are making connections for you and giving.
Yeah, you always hope your board will help you to meet people. And it's really just getting out there and meeting the people. If you can hire someone who knows the people in Houston.
Networker. Yeah.
There are some fundraisers like Gail Perry, sign up for their newsletters. Every once in a while they'll have, great pieces of advice in there. Your board should be able to help you.
But you have to, as a development staff, you have to guide that board, because the board doesn't just go out and raise money for you.
Right. I mean, we'll
to work
say, like, for example, for our gala, it's like, okay, these are people we're trying to get in touch with. We want this person to be our presenting sponsor at this level. So who knows him? Okay, I know him. Okay, can you get an appointment where we'll go with you and we'll make the ask? Because a lot of times they're not comfortable asking. So just trying to get them to make the introduction.
Wow, very good. So Julie Voss wants to know, do you require your board to make financial gifts to the organization? Does the board have to give money?
We do have that. And it is.
Do you call it a give or get? I see a lot of
We
organizations.
do have a give or get. I mean, because some people will give through the company they work for. So they're not necessarily giving, but if they would not have requested that gift, we wouldn't have received it. And it is whatever is a financial I can't think of the name.
A meaningful gift?
A meaningful gift for them. Because we have some people who are professors.
Yep.
And then we have some
What are you
people who are
doing with professors on your board?
Social work.
They can't give money.
We get it, though.
Do you have a big board?
We have 23 people on our board.
Okay. Wow. So a lot of organizations will do this give or get, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either you give or you get it from somehow your company. I've seen, $1,000 give and get, $5,000, $10,000. I mean, if you had a preference and you're advising someone, I mean, you guys do meaningful gift, but do you like the idea of just saying meaningful gift, or would you, as a development professional, would you rather that there'd be sort of we know what you're going to have to give or get?
We do that with some donors, but with the board, we have not. We just started with a single page donation instead of, okay, you can get a spring appeal, a Christmas appeal, you can get invitation to the gala, you can get an invitation to a Cardinals Christmas. So we made one page, and it's like, or do you just want to give a gift, an annual gift? But it is a page that every board member gets that, we expect you to give a meaningful gift.
Rocio Beisa wants to know, how do you determine whether an organization is successful or not to the point that you would want to use some of their strategies? You guys are helping, you're advising a number of these student groups, right? Catholic Charities is one of the organizations that student groups are working with. If one of those groups is looking at another organization, how do they determine if that's a successful organization or not?
I think you can be determined a success in multiple ways. Are you achieving your mission? Mm-hmm. Of course, being in development, I look at money. Mm-hmm. What is their marketing doing? So,
so when you look at money, when you look at development, is there? I mean, how do you tell if someone is an underperformer development-wise?
It depends on what their role is in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the development department and you aren't raising 3 times your salary, or a minimum 2 times your salary, then maybe we need to see if there's another opportunity for you. With the case managers, it's so important to have their notes up to date. I have to admit, I'm not a program person, so
yeah.
I don't know what their criteria is, but I know within my department, we all have goals. Marketing has to get so many more likes this year. On Facebook, they have to reach these goals with the appeal. My development person has to bring in this many new donors, this much money. Events have, this financial goal. The grant writers have how many new grants are you applying for that we receive? How much money is that? I mean, again, I'm a numbers-based department.
Yeah. John Bogucki wants to know, how does your heavy reliance on government grants impact your programs and services, and how does it impact administrative costs?
Well, sometimes administrative costs are built into the contract. It just depends on the contract. I tell you, I wish we weren't so heavily dependent on government grants, because it could all change tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, it could.
And sometimes when we get them, we find out maybe the day before, it's like, okay, and you need to hire 40 new attorneys, and the contract starts tomorrow. But, we all know what's going on with the government, and to rely on it this heavily, but you know what, if we don't have the funding, then we can't do the program. Mm-hmm. So we wouldn't have the costs related to that program either. But the costs for administrative...
So it's a hassle, but it's sort of worth it, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't do what we did for the kids, there are other organizations that take care of these kids, but I mean, who else is going to do it?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Francisco Aldana wants to know, what are your thoughts on guerrilla-style fundraising as opposed to traditional types of fundraising?
Well, I wish I had the money to do guerrilla-type.
What is guerrilla-style fundraising?
To me, it's really in your face, fast, and then kind of. I don't have the money or the staff to do fundraising like that. I have to stick with more traditional that I know works because I don't have the money to play around that it's like, oh, I just spent $10,000 and we didn't make any money on it. So I need to kind of stick with what I know will work.
Tried and true. Evidence-based fundraising, right?
Yes.
Guerrilla fundraising sounds something like what the zoo would do. No, sorry. What a bad joke that was, right? Christina Vogel wants to know, when scandals are reported in the news, does that impact your organization when your group is part of that?
Well, usually it's not.
Wasn't that a nice way of phrasing that question?
But we have had some scandal.
But not financial scandal. I have to
No,
say.
it's never been within my department. But you do worry about it. You get on the phone as quick as you can and you call your donors and tell them what the situation is to let them know.
Does it impact when you guys show up on the front page of the Houston Chronicle? Do you see it reflected in your numbers?
We haven't. We've had a few situations since I've been here. One was about 8 months before my first gala, so we were very worried about it, but we didn't. A lot of people, we called them, we told them what happened, the changes that were made, and they came out and supported us. They believe in what we do and that we're doing the best we can. If mistakes are made, we deal with them appropriately.
That was within the program, and it was an odd but important little thing. But I often think that it's when it's financial mismanagement, like what's happening with Wounded Warriors right now. I think it's far worse, where donors feel like their money hasn't been spent well. That's different than if something happens on the job in the program area, right?
Yeah, and we 93 cents of every dollar goes to client services. We're very financially responsible. We have them auditing us, as most nonprofits do.
Yeah.
Luckily, we just have not had anything happen, or again, we're not able to spend amounts of money. I mean, we are very responsible with our money.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Let's see here. So Letitia Taylor wants to know, what strategies does the organization use to keep donors interested in giving?
Well, they want to know about our clients and success stories. And with as many programs that we have, we've got lots of success stories. I mean, they want to hear about the senior who's now coming to our senior service center and getting a hot meal every day, and has made friends where she used to be a shut-in. About the child who came from Guatemala and came across the border, lived in a shelter, then, was in one of our foster homes and is now going to school and, at A&M becoming an engineer. So just letting them know about the success that we have. That's why they supported us to begin with, and that's why they continue to support us, because of the success we have.
Ashley Lawson wants to know, do you have a plan for raising funds as the economy possibly goes into crisis?
We are monitoring it closely. We haven't seen an effect yet. And from what I understand, oil prices have started to creep up.
Yeah.
So our Christmas appeal was the last benchmark I had, and we exceeded that. Our gala is coming up. It's exceeded goal already. So we haven't seen anything. We do know that if it starts to go down, then we have to work and make changes.
Yeah.
But we don't have those changes planned yet.
And from the CEO's perspective, it's really development, work as hard as you can, and we're here to help you. And if the economy is not helping you out, then we just need, it's the expense part that needs to change, right? So development's job is almost always nose to the grindstone. And then it becomes the CEO's responsibility to say, okay, we need to cut expenses because obviously everything we're doing is not enough.
Yeah, I mean, then the CEO and the CFO will
Right.
get together and say, okay, cut your budget by 5%, 10%. We're in our budget right now because our new budget starts July 1, so we're creating the budget. But we're also looking at it, okay, if you take this budget, well, what if you have 5% less, if you have 10% less, if you have 15% less? So we are looking at those things, but we haven't had to make any adjustments as of this time.
Yeah. And I guess the other part of that is that a CEO will sometimes have to say, and they wouldn't for you, but for sometimes it's, do I have the right development staff if they're not meeting these needs, right? Would new leadership in the development area change things? And we see that, all over the country, right? Where there's a lot of development people that aren't pulling their own weight. I mean, do you see this in some of your contacts as well? And that we talk about, well, these aren't people that that should be doing the job?
Yeah, again, I feel like it's very simple.
Yeah.
We have that dashboard. I can pull up Cynthia's dashboard. I can pull up my dashboard. I can pull up anyone we have dashboards for. And you can see right there, either you're making your numbers or you're not. If you're not, is there something I need to do? Do you need help from me? What do we do to get you up there? And you know what? If you can't make the numbers, then again, maybe there's another area you should work in.
So in some ways, development jobs are the easiest jobs in the world to evaluate.
Well, yeah, we're simple.
It's just like how much have you raised lately, right? So.
Though people do have, we're very fortunate that we live in Houston because we have a very generous city. And some people have called me a professional beggar. Okay. That's what you want to call
harsh.
me. But when I say, if I wrote a book, why not?
Yeah.
I would put some things in common sense. I would say almost more than 50% of the time when I meet with someone, I don't even ask them. They know if they're meeting with me, why. I ask them for lunch, and usually they'll just say what they're going to give me. Sometimes we kind of start talking.
Over time, it becomes easier than people think.
Yeah, it's really, these people are wanting to give. So I don't look at it like begging. These people want to give, but you need to find what is the right passion for them. We have some people who don't like refugees. We have some people who love seniors. What is it you're passionate about? And again, these people, they want to give, but they want to give to what their passion is.
This morning I got an email from a longtime donor, and we've been trying to set up a breakfast, and he says, I don't know if you want to go to breakfast with me. We're not really giving right now. And how do you answer that, right? And the answer is, of course you want to go to breakfast no matter what. But do you get that every once in a while where it's a little tough, isn't it?
It's like, well, the stock market's down, Diane, and oil's down, and I'm retired from Exxon. I'm like, I just wanted to meet and, get you, keep you up to date in what we're doing and love to see you. You've been traveling because a lot of our donors, you have to work in between the travel, and usually they're gone for the whole summer. And
the reality is there is a relationship there. You're happy to meet with them.
Yeah. And a lot of times then it's like, well, I can give you $25,000. I'm like, okay. That was a good one.
I hope that's the answer to this one. Moises Fabela wants to know, what are some of the challenges and rewards of collaborating with other organizations?
Well, the challenges is sometimes you say you're working on a program together. If they don't, you may split up responsibilities. If they don't hold up their part of the bargain, then you've got to pick it up. But the rewards are so much better. I really have not had problems working with other organizations, and we have to collaborate. We aren't able to do what we do if we don't collaborate. We're so much stronger, and we can't do everything. And again, there's just not enough money to go around. So if we can do this and you can do that, then you know what? We've got this client. We're going to help them with what we can, and then you're going to help them. You know, we all don't do the same thing, but we all have to work together. I mean, we're trying to help get people out of poverty. Well, we're not going to end poverty, probably not in my time, but we can help people.
We're going to try.
The best we can. But can we do it by ourselves? No. You know, but with all of us working together, we can make a big dent in it. So I think we have to work together, and together we make a lot bigger differences than if it was just us.
Victoria Evans wants to know, is the turnover rate high within the development team?
It goes through ups and downs. Right now, I just had one person leave to go be a program director, and another person go because she wants to get into a different kind of work. So, and I only have 10 people on my team. So
But it seems to me there is, I mean, development, would you say people stay an average of about 2 years?
I think so, 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. And how long have you been at Catholic Charities?
5 years.
Wow.
So I'm due.
Yeah. But you love it there.
I do.
And every
you
time
know,
I see your boss, she says, please don't steal Diane from us. So,
you know, when you talk to the clients, and it's not that I have favorites, but the children are just, you know, they're vulnerable, and like you, some of the kids we work with, the things that have happened to them, I just don't think should happen to a child.
Right.
And it's just criminal. And but then to see them happy and playing and getting to spend a little time as a child that we can provide them, it's just so worth it.
yeah, it really is. All right, time for our fun questions of the evening. Your favorite restaurant in Houston, Diane?
Carrabba's,
Carrabba's. You like Carrabba's? Is there one that you particularly like?
the one on Kirby.
Well, the original Carrabba's.
Yes.
That Carrabba's is way better than any other Carrabba's. don't you
Yeah, it's
think?
not part of the chain. They didn't sell it
Yeah.
as part of the chain.
Do you have a second favorite?
Probably Luigi's, which is
Oh,
a little dive restaurant. I live in Midtown.
yeah.
And
People like that place a lot. Yeah, I don't think I've been there. It's BYOB, right? Yeah, maybe I have been there. What's the best kept secret spot in Houston?
I think Luigi's is.
Luigi's. That was your.
It's just a little dive, and they have the best. You know, you can just buy pizza by the slice. You can bring your own bottle of wine in, and it's great food, very inexpensive.
Is that close to Catholic Charities too?
I live and work. It's 1 mile between my office and.
Now, when you take someone to lunch from Catholic Charities, is there a go-to place where they know you when you walk in?
Damien's.
They know you at Damien's?
Well, we have a deal with Damien's. They use our parking lot at night and weekends. So part of the deal is they give us gift certificates. And since it's just across the street, we walk in and
So that's an easy thing for you.
it's just easy
How many
for us.
days a week are you eating at Damien's?
Oh, no, I would say maybe once a month.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it seems like I take a lot of donors out, and there's a little place near us called Frank's Americana Revival, and I think I'm there. When I leave, they often will say, "See you tomorrow, Dr. Sanborn." So I think it's a little sad. Don't you think?
One of the problems I have, and I know a lot of other people who are heads of departments or have people reporting to them, is I get caught up in running the department and don't get to spend as much time with my donors as I should
Yeah.
or would like to. But
Yeah.
I've got to get the appeal out. I've got to handle this issue with a donor who's not getting their information from, for some reason, the letter got lost in the mail. And, the grant writer wants to know, well, which program should we write this grant for? So I get pulled, special events. Is this invitation okay? We need your okay before we go to print. So I get pulled in a lot of different ways, and I'm not able to spend as much time with donors as I should or would like to.
A question we've been asking on my radio show a lot is, when you were a teenager, what was your favorite band?
Foreigner.
Foreigner, really? People don't even know who that is today.
I know.
All right. And when they make the Diane Cervenka movie, who's going to play you?
Oh, I would love for Julia Roberts too, just because I like her. I love her laugh.
Yeah. Well, very good.
Really, because we
She
look
looks
so much
just
alike.
like you.
I know.
So very good. Diane Cervenka, thank you so much for the work you do at Catholic Charities. Thank you for being here in the class and in our leadership studio. And keep up the great work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very good. We will see you guys next time here in the Nonprofit Leadership Studio. Until then, keep up the good work.